Hola clase. Today we're going to finish up our vocab for Unit 5, so make sure that you have your Unit 5 vocab list out so you can finish completing it. We're just going to finish up with some question words. In English, our question words are who, what, when, where, why, how, and the same question words exist in Spanish. I'm going to show you just one slide that has everything you need for today's lesson on it. We're going to go through each of these. We're going to practice saying them. We're going to write them down, and we're going to look at some examples. I will also explain if there are any differences between the English version and Spanish version as we go along. So let's go ahead and get started. I think the most commonly used word in both English and Spanish is what. And in Spanish, that's que, which I'm sure you've already learned and used many times so far this year. But make sure that you know for sure, que is what? Repitan, que. Now, not to jump ahead, but I do want to mention something just to help with being very polite. You know, in English, a lot of times if you hear something and then you don't hear it completely the first time, you might say, what? Like, would you repeat that? You know, we say, what? In Spanish, you don't see people saying que as much. If you do, it's a little rigid. It's not as polite as saying como instead. So I'm kind of jumping down here just for a second. Como means how. And even though that doesn't make sense, if you're asking me to repeat myself and you say, how? At first you're going, I don't get it. But it's just something that they do in Spanish. So if you want to have somebody repeat something, besides just asking them, can you repeat that? You could just say, como? Como? And it's a nice way of asking, like, what'd you say? Can you repeat that? All right, so back to the top. The word who is quien. Quien. Remember, anytime there's a Q and U together, it makes a cuss sound. So make sure you're pronouncing these correctly. Que, quien. And we learned this in our very first vocab lesson when we were asking, who is he? Who is she? ¿Quién es ella? ¿Quién es él? So that shouldn't be new to you. So go ahead and repitan. ¿Quién? ¿Quién? Very good. ¿Cuándo is when? ¿Cuándo? Like the question, ¿Cuándo vas? Is when do you go, or when are you going? Repitan, ¿Cuándo? Very good. ¿Dónde is where? ¿Dónde? Like the question, ¿Dónde estás? Where are you? Repitan, ¿Dónde? Now, in English, we don't have a separate word to ask to where are you going, but in Spanish they do. Donde is to where. And we only use this if you're asking someone like, where are you going? To where is your vacation this year? To where are you going tomorrow, etc. So keep that in mind. If you ever want to ask a question about where are you going in the future, we would use a donde. Repitan, a donde. ¿Por qué is why. Now, if you remember the word because, it's also porque, but it's mushed into one word. And there's one easy way to remember that. If por and que are separated, por is 3 letters, que is 3 letters, and it equals y, which is also 3 letters. So that kind of helps me remember. Por qué is the question why. But then if you answer because, you mush por and que into one word, porque. And porque means because. So don't let that confuse you. So, an example here is, ¿Por qué estudias español? Why do you study Spanish? So repeat that after me. ¿Por qué? Now, ¿cuál is which? Repitan, ¿cuál? And ¿cuál is actually used a lot more in Spanish than we use the word which in English. Usually I would ask, like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite season? What's your favorite day of the week? But in Spanish, they usually use the word which to ask questions. And the general rule for that is if there is a certain amount of items you're asking someone to choose from. Like if I wanted to know your favorite day of the week, there's only 7 days of the week. So in Spanish, I wouldn't say, what's your favorite day of the week? I would say which, because it's like you have a choice. So like, ¿Cuál es tu día favorito? What is your favorite day? Which, is your favorite day? But that can get even broader. Like when I ask which is your favorite food, there are only certain amounts of food you have to choose from, so they would use the word which instead of what. Same thing like which is your favorite season? ¿Cuál es tu estación favorita? So just keep that in mind. You'll see the word which used a lot more often than we use the word which in English. So cuál is a very common word they use. And then como is how, like como estás, how are you? And as we said before, como is the word we'd like to use if you need someone to repeat something. Instead of going ¿qué?, you go como, and it's just a little more polite. So let's run through those one more time. I'm just going to say them. I want you to repeat them after me. What is ¿qué? Who is ¿quién? When is ¿cuándo? Where is ¿dónde? To where is ¿a dónde? Why is ¿por qué? Which is ¿cuál? And how is ¿cómo? So I would definitely practice these a lot, maybe make some flashcards, definitely practice them on your Quizlet, because these are not cognates. These are harder words to memorize because they don't look or sound anything like their English translation. But you definitely have to know these. They're very important in our Spanish language. So email me if you have any questions, and as always, thanks for watching.